The red and blue lights painted my face as I saved my fourth life of the night. To the world, I was Anna, a 32-year-old paramedic, a hero. But at home, I wasn't a hero. I was a resource to be drained, a walking ATM for my manipulative father and entitled brother. Every paycheck, every signature on a loan they'd never repay, was another link in the chains they'd wrapped around me. I thought I could handle the weight of it all. Until the day they decided to sever the brake lines on my car with my daughter inside. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever gone above and beyond for family. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. The rain pounded the asphalt, a relentless drumbeat against the chaos of the highway pileup. I crouched beside a crumpled sedan, my paramedic gear soaked through, the red and blue lights of ambulances painting my face in frantic pulses. A woman lay pinned in the driver's seat, her breath shallow, blood matting her hair. "Stay with me," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. My hands moved on instinct, checking her pulse, stabilizing her neck, barking orders to the rookie EMT hovering nearby. "Seat collar, now!" He fumbled, but I didn't falter. I couldn't. Not here. Not when lives hung in the balance. The scene was a mess. Twisted metal, shattered glass, and the wail of sirens cutting through the downpour. I triaged like a machine, prioritizing the critical, directing stretchers, my mind a steel trap. A man with a broken femur screamed as I splinted his leg. A teenager sobbed, clutching my arm, begging for her mom. I saved 4 lives that night, or so the report would say. But as I climbed into my battered SUV, the weight of it all didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. The drive home was a blur. Oak Haven's shiny suburbs faded into the older, forgotten streets where I grew up. The family house loomed ahead, its peeling paint and sagging porch a silent accusation. I parked behind Kyle's sleek sports car, glossy, overpriced, and paid for with my signature on the loan. My stomach twisted. I'd co-signed because he'd begged, his boyish grin masking the lie that he'd pay me back soon. 2 years later, I was still covering the payments. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the scent of takeout containers and unwashed dishes. Richard, my father, sat in his recliner, clutching his side like he was one cough away from the grave. "Anna," he rasped, not looking up from the TV. "My new meds came in, experimental stuff, you need to pick 'em up tomorrow." I knew the truth. They were just brand-name painkillers, nothing special, but he played the invalid card like a pro. Kyle sprawled on the couch, headset on, shouting at his online gaming buddies. "Yo, Anna," he called without glancing at me. "Add some ribeye to the grocery list. Oh, and I need a new gaming mouse, the one I got's lagging." He didn't ask. He never did. To them, I was a walking ATM, not a sister, not a daughter. Lily, my 6-year-old, tugged at my sleeve, her brown eyes wide. "Mommy, my car seat belt's loose again." I knelt, brushing her curls back, forcing a smile. "I'll fix it, baby." Kyle snorted from the couch. "She probably messed with it. Kids, right?" His smirk sent a chill through me, but I brushed it off. I was too tired to fight. Later, as I collapsed onto my bed, my phone buzzed. A bank alert. A $487 charge for automotive parts. I frowned. I hadn't bought anything like that. My thumb hovered over the app, but exhaustion won. I'd deal with it tomorrow. Tomorrow came too soon. Lily's asthma appointment was at 8 a.m. and we were running late. I buckled her into the car, ignoring the nagging worry about the seatbelt. The road was busy, Oak Haven's morning traffic snarling as we approached the intersection by the old mill. I pressed the brake pedal. Nothing happened. My heart lurched. I pumped again. Still nothing. The light ahead turned red, cars crossing in front of us. "Mommy?" Lily's voice was small, scared. Instinct took over. I yanked the wheel, swerving toward the guardrail. Metal screamed as we scraped along it, sparks flying, the car shuddering as I fought to slow us down. The embankment loomed ahead. I braced myself, whispering, "Hold on, Lily." Then the world exploded into darkness. I woke to the sterile beep of hospital monitors, my head pounding like a jackhammer. Pain stabbed my ribs with every breath. A nurse's face swam into view, her voice calm but firm. "Anna, you've got a concussion and 3 cracked ribs. Your daughter's okay, just shaken up." Relief flooded me, sharp and fleeting. Lily was unharmed. I clung to that as the room spun. Lily curled against me on the hospital bed, her small hands gripping my gown. I stroked her hair, whispering, "We're okay, baby." But I wasn't sure I believed it. I fumbled for my phone and called Sarah, my best friend since high school, my voice cracking as I told her what happened and gave her my room number. "I'm coming," she promised. I exhaled, trusting her. She was my anchor. Then the door burst open, and Richard stormed in, his face red with a vitality I hadn't seen in years. "You totaled the car, Anna," he bellowed. "Do you have any idea how much this is going to cost?" "You're so damn irresponsible," I flinched, my ribs screaming, but his words cut deeper. Kyle slunk in behind him, phone raised, filming the whole thing with a smirk. "For insurance," he said, but his eyes gleamed with something darker. I tried to speak, but my voice was a rasp. "It wasn't my fault. The brakes?" Richard cut me off, leaning close, his breath sour. "Don't you dare make excuses," Lily whimpered, and I pulled her closer, my head throbbing. I was breaking, and they could see it. "Get out," I whispered, barely audible. Richard's hand cracked across my face, sharp and sudden. "You will not disrespect me." The room went silent, the nurse frozen at her station. Kyle lowered his phone, his smile gone, but he didn't move to help. Richard turned and stormed out, Kyle trailing him like a shadow. At the door, Kyle paused, patting my arm. "Don't worry, sis. Sarah just texted me your room number. She's on her way." The words hit like a second slap. I hadn't told Kyle my room number. I'd only told Sarah. My mind reeled, piecing it together. Sarah, my confidant, my sister in all but blood, had betrayed me. She'd been working with them, feeding them information, maybe more. The pain in my ribs was nothing compared to the cold rage igniting in my chest. I was alone, truly alone, and the people I trusted most had orchestrated my fall. The hospital discharged me 2 days later, my ribs bound, my head still foggy. The cab ride home was silent, Lily clutching her stuffed bunny, her eyes distant. The house felt like a trap as we stepped inside, the air heavy with unspoken blame. Richard barely looked at me, muttering about the inconvenience of my injuries. Kyle lounged in the living room, scrolling on his phone, his presence a constant reminder of his betrayal. I moved through the days like a ghost. My body aching, my mind replaying Sarah's lie, Kyle's smirk, Richard's slap. Lily stayed close, sensing the shift in me. I fixed her car seat belt, triple-checking it, but the memory of the crash haunted me. What had happened to the brakes? The question gnawed, but I had no answers. Then the letter arrived, official and registered, from a lawyer named Mr. Davies. I tore it open, my hands trembling. Inside was a small, ornate key, its edges worn but intricate, and a sealed note in my mother's handwriting. My breath caught. Mom had died 3 years ago, her heart giving out after years of stress. I hadn't seen her writing since. I unfolded the note, my eyes stinging. For my bravest girl, it read. "Some cages are built with love, but they are still cages. When you're ready, this key unlocks more than a box, it unlocks the truth. Trust yourself." I clutched the key, my heart racing. Mom had known. She'd seen the way Richard and Kyle drained me, the way they twisted love into obligation. She'd left me something, a lifeline from beyond the grave. I hid the key in my pocket, my resolve hardening. I wasn't ready to face it yet, but the seed of hope had been planted. That evening I stood on the porch, needing air. Mr. Henderson, our neighbor, shuffled over, his eyes avoiding mine. "Heard about your car," he said, voice low. "Your mom, she worried about Kyle's debts, and Richard's temper when money got tight. She changed the locks once, he found a way back in." He hesitated, then added, "Be careful, Anna." He shuffled away, leaving me frozen. The key wasn't for a door. It was for something bigger, something Mom had hidden from them. For the first time in days I felt a flicker of strength. I wasn't just a victim. I was Eleanor Hayes's daughter, and she'd left me a way out. The key burned a hole in my pocket for days, its weight both a comfort and a challenge. I didn't know what it opened, but Mom's note echoed in my head. "Trust yourself." I clung to those words, a lifeline in the suffocating haze of the house. Richard's complaints about my laziness grew louder, as if my cracked ribs were a personal affront. Kyle's eyes followed me, his silence more unnerving than his usual demands. I kept the key hidden, waiting for the right moment. On a gray Tuesday, I told Richard I was taking Lily to the library. He grunted, uninterested, and Kyle was out, probably at some bar, racking up more debt. I drove Mom's old sedan, the one I'd barely used since the crash. My hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The bank downtown was a relic, its marble columns and brass fixtures a nod to Oakhaven's prouder days. I carried Lily inside, her small hand in mine, and asked for the safety deposit boxes. The clerk, an older woman with kind eyes, led us to a vault that smelled of dust and secrets. My heart pounded as I slid the key into box 472. It clicked, smooth and certain, like it had been waiting for me. The box was heavier than I expected, its contents shifting as I carried it to a private room. Lily sat coloring, oblivious, while I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a folder, thick and worn, labeled Barrett House. I opened it, my breath catching. The deed to our family home stared back at me, its words a revelation. The house was in a trust, with me, Anna Hayes, as the sole trustee and beneficiary. Not Richard, not Kyle, just me. My maternal grandfather had gifted it to Mom, and she'd hidden it from Richard to protect me. All these years, I'd thought we were tenants in his kingdom. But the house was mine. Beneath the deed were more folders, each a piece of a puzzle Mom had painstakingly assembled. Bank statements showed Richard's withdrawals, tens of thousands, siphoned from accounts I didn't even know existed. Printouts detailed Kyle's gambling losses, his bets spiraling into the tens of thousands. A life insurance policy on Mom caught my eye, its fine print chilling. Richard would lose his claim if her death was accelerated by negligence or willful harm. My mind flashed to her sudden heart attack, the way Richard had dismissed her fatigue as drama. The final folder, labeled Leverage, was a weapon. Richard's medical records, dated years back, showed a minor thyroid condition, easily managed with pills. His crippling illness was a lie, a performance to keep me tethered. Mom had known, she'd built an arsenal, and now it was mine. I sat back, my ribs aching, my mind racing. The truth was a fortress, and I'd just unlocked its gates. For the first time I saw a way out, not just for me, but for Lily. I wasn't powerless. I was armed. The next morning I called Mr. Davies, the lawyer from the letter. His office was a small, cluttered space above a coffee shop, the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking. He was older, with sharp eyes and a voice that carried quiet authority. "Your mother was a brilliant strategist," he said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. "She set up a trust fund for your legal defense, funded by her family's inheritance. It's modest, but it's enough. We can file for eviction and a restraining order today." I exhaled, the weight of years lifting slightly. Mom hadn't just left me evidence, she'd left me a shield. I nodded, and we got to work. By the end of the meeting I had a plan. Evict Richard and Kyle, protect Lily, and reclaim my life. Sarah ambushed me that afternoon outside the grocery store, her eyes red, her voice thick with tears. "Anna, please, we're family. I didn't mean to hurt you." I studied her, the friend I'd trusted with my secrets, my fears, the friend who'd sold me out. "Is this about family, Sarah?" I said, my voice low, "or about the money Kyle owes you?" Her face crumpled, guilt written in every line. I didn't wait for an answer. I walked away, my heart bruised but unbowed. She was part of the cage, and I was done. I contacted a forensic mechanic next, a private investigator recommended by Mr. Davies. He agreed to examine the wrecked car, focusing on the brake system. "If there's foul play," he said, "I'll find it." I authorized the report, my stomach churning. The crash wasn't an accident. I felt it in my bones. That evening, I walked into the house, not as a daughter, but as the landlord. Richard was in his recliner, Kyle on the couch. I set 2 envelopes on the coffee table, my hands steady. "These are eviction notices," I said, my voice clear. "You have 30 days to leave." Richard's face went slack, then red. Kyle laughed, disbelieving until he saw my eyes. "You're serious?" he sputtered. "You can't do this." "I already have," I said, and walked away, Lily's hand in mine. Their shouts followed me, but they were just noise. I'd drawn a line and I wouldn't cross it again. The next 30 days were a war of attrition. Richard played the victim, calling old family friends, spinning tales about my concussion-driven instability. I heard the whispers at the grocery store, saw the pitying looks. It stung, but I kept my head high. Kyle was subtler, his sabotage petty but relentless. Light bulbs unscrewed, my work uniform soaked in accidental spills, my keys misplaced. I locked my bedroom door at night, Lily sleeping close, her bunny clutched tight. I leaned on small victories. Lily's asthma was stable, her laughter a balm. Mr. Davies updated me weekly, his calm confidence at anchor. The mechanic's report came in on day 15, and it was a bombshell. The brake lines hadn't been cut. They'd been weakened over weeks, shaved down to fail catastrophically at the worst moment. It was deliberate, designed to look like an accident. The police opened an investigation, and I gave them Kyle's name. His automotive parts charge suddenly made sense. Then, 2 weeks before eviction, a package arrived, small and unmarked. Inside was a cheap digital recorder and another note from Mom. Richard thought he was a good liar. He wasn't. I pressed play, my heart in my throat. Richard's voice crackled through, cold and venomous. Speaking to Mom years ago. "If you leave me, Eleanor, I'll make sure everyone knows about your father's business secrets. You'll lose everything." He'd been blackmailing her, using her family's legacy to keep her trapped. I gripped the recorder, rage and grief warring inside me. Mom had fought back even then. I gave the recording to the police, my hands shaking. It wasn't just evidence. It was proof that Mom had never stopped protecting me. The house grew quieter, Richard and Kyle sensing the noose tightening. I slept with the key under my pillow, its cold metal a reminder I was winning. Eviction day dawned cold, the kind of Oak Haven morning where the wind cut through your jacket and left you raw. I stood on the porch, eviction papers in hand, Lily at my side clutching her bunny. The sheriff's deputy, a broad man with a no-nonsense stare, arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. I handed him the papers, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "They've had their 30 days, I said. He nodded, glancing at the house like it was just another job. For me, it was everything. Richard and Kyle were inside, their voices muffled but rising. The deputy knocked, his fist heavy against the door. "Richard Barrett, Kyle Barrett, this is the sheriff's department. Open the door." Silence, then footsteps. Richard yanked the door open, his face a mask of barely contained rage. "This is my house," he spat, jabbing a finger at me. "She's got no right." The deputy didn't flinch. "Sir, the deed says otherwise. Step outside or we'll remove you." Richard's eyes darted to me, and for a moment I saw fear behind the fury. Kyle slunk out behind him, his usual smirk gone, replaced by a sullen scowl. They carried nothing, no bags, no boxes. They'd thought they could bully me into backing down. Then Richard erupted, his voice booming across the yard. "You ungrateful bitch, after everything I've done for you." Neighbors peeked from windows, drawn by the spectacle. I stood tall, my ribs still tender but my resolve ironclad. The deputy stepped between us, but Richard wasn't done. He leaned around him, his words venomous. "You're not even my daughter. Your mother cheated. I only kept you because it looked good." The words hung in the air, meant to shatter me. Instead, they set me free. I wasn't his. The debt I'd carried, the guilt, the obligation was a lie. I met his gaze, my voice calm. "Good, that means I owe you nothing." His mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time, he had no power over me. Before he could recover, 2 unmarked police cars pulled up, their tires crunching on the gravel. Detectives stepped out, their faces grim. The lead detective, a woman with sharp eyes, held up the mechanic's report. "Kyle Barrett," she said, "you're under arrest for attempted murder." Kyle's face went white, his hands rising instinctively as cuffs clicked around his wrists. He stammered, "This is a mistake." But the evidence was ironclad. The weakened brake lines, the automotive charge, his fingerprints on the car. The second detective turned to Richard, holding Mom's recorder. "Richard Barrett, you're under arrest for conspiracy and blackmail." Richard froze, his bravado crumbling. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, but the detective played the recording, his voice damning him from years past. Neighbors gasped, their whispers a chorus of shock. Richard and Kyle were led away in cuffs, their empire of lies collapsing in public view. I stood on the porch as the cars drove off, the wind biting my face. Lily clung to my leg, her voice small. "Are they gone, Mommy?" I knelt, pulling her close. "Yes, baby, they're gone." The house behind me felt empty, its walls no longer a cage but a hollow shell. I was alone, utterly and completely, but I was in control. For the first time in years I could breathe. 6 months later the world looked different. I sold the Barrett house, its peeling paint and heavy memories too much to carry. The money, combined with Mom's trust, gave me a fresh start. Lily and I moved into a small rental cottage across town, closer to the good school district. It was modest, a single story with creaky floors and a tiny backyard, but it was ours. No shadows lingered in the corners, no demands echoed through the walls. It was a sanctuary, built on my terms. Healing came slowly like spring after a brutal winter. Sarah sent a letter, her handwriting shaky, admitting her role in Kyle's schemes and begging for a chance to rebuild. I read it by the kitchen window, sunlight streaming through the glass, and felt the old ache in my chest. I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet. I folded the letter and set it aside, choosing peace over pain. Therapy helped, each session peeling back layers of guilt and anger. I learned to forgive myself for staying so long, for believing their lies. I quit the paramedic job, its relentless pace a reminder of the life I'd outgrown. Instead, I enrolled in a nursing program aiming to become a trauma nurse. It felt right, helping others heal without sacrificing my own heart. The trust fund covered tuition, and I worked part-time at a local clinic. My evenings spent studying while Lily drew pictures at the kitchen table. We were building something new, piece by piece. The police case wrapped up quietly. Kyle pleaded guilty to attempted murder, his sentence a decade behind bars. Richard's blackmail conviction added years to his own. I didn't attend the trials. Their voices had no place in my life anymore. Mr. Henderson stopped by once, his eyes softer now. "Your mom would be proud," he said, handing me a photo of her laughing in the old backyard. I framed it, a reminder of her strength, her love. The final evening found Lily and me in our backyard, planting lavender bushes under a fading sunset. The air smelled of earth and possibility. Lily, her bunny forgotten, wielded a small trowel, giggling as dirt smudged her nose. "Are we home, Mommy?" she asked, her brown eyes bright. I knelt, brushing the dirt from her cheek, my heart full. "Yes, baby," I said, my voice steady, clear. "We are finally home." The lavender swayed in the breeze, its scent mingling with the warmth of the moment. I didn't know what tomorrow held, but for now, we were enough. We were free. I had to become my own rescuer, and I learned that freedom isn't given, it's built. If you are in a seemingly impossible situation, remember that knowledge is your weapon, and evidence is your shield. Document everything. Seek quiet counsel. Your abusers rely on your silence and your exhaustion. Don't give them that power. You are stronger and more resourceful than they want you to believe. Take the first step, no matter how small. Share this to empower someone to start building their case for freedom. What's one small step you can take today to reclaim your power?